Thank you for listening to the Unscripted Dreams Podcast with Joe and Marcus. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email us at unscripteddreams@gmail.com. Please support us on Patreon at the Unscripted Dreams Podcast, where we have exclusive content. If you're listening on YouTube, you can find our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or iHeartRadio. Thank you. Hey, this is Marcus.
This is Joe.
Welcome to the Unscripted Dreams Podcast.
Welcome.
This is episode number 5, where we'll be going, we're getting into Impostor Syndrome. That's what happens when you're recording a podcast from across the country. Things like that gonna happen sometimes.
Should I hit him with the typical jargon right quick?
Yeah, man, go ahead. Give it to him.
All right. As we know, life is full of surprises, both good and bad. The day-to-day journey is full of unforeseen obstacles, and sometimes it's hard to see our way through. Beyond the norm and mundane are where unscripted dreams live. Join us for thought-provoking discussions and interviews to help us navigate through the fog and create our own path. We are the Unscripted Dream Podcast, operating outside the margins to motivate and inspire our audience.
All right, great. So this episode, we're talking about, as you already said, imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And by definition, the most basic definition I can provide for that is it is a psychological pattern in which one doubts one's accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, to a certain extent, man. That's a little harsh and extreme, but let me give you some examples of that. Literally, you may be in disbelief in one's own actions or accomplishments. It doesn't have to be as harsh as that. Or maybe it's because you have been on the grind so long and finally made it to where you were trying to go. You're still in that shock value or shock factor that, oh my God, I can't believe I made it to this point in my life. Or maybe it's because, it's from being bullied and ostracized by so many naysayers and you got so many haters around your way, where you more or less value what they have to say because you've been hearing it for so long. And of course, the last one is, you lack confidence in yourself. It's a common thing to happen with imposter syndrome.
Yeah. So, Joe, have you ever suffered, or do you suffer from imposter syndrome?
Oh man, what? That's like the blueprint for college students, man. You're studying to be something or to master your craft in a certain profession, and yet you don't even have the experience because you're not even in the field yet, but you're expected to be an expert coming out the gate when you get a degree, and that's literally false. You have to put some work or some effort behind it from actually being in the real world versus you just reading a book and learning about it. It just doesn't work like that. And that's why it's really common for people that are in school to experience these type of situations because you're speaking on something that you read about, but you don't know necessarily the full end or the full extent of what's going on in the real world because you're not getting paid for it at that point. You're building up to that point so you can have a career doing these type of things.
Okay, but what about once you've kind of, the other way to look at it is that once you've achieved a status where you've had some type of or some level of success in your field, but you still don't quite feel like you're deserving of any of the accolades?
I mean, I deal with it sometimes too, man. And sometimes it's not even just you. It's just the whole idea of how you might be treated by everybody else. So, it's a lot of factors to it, man. Like, not only are you dealing with war against yourself, you're also dealing with other people that you have to more or less prove your point to. say that you've gotten to the point where you have been comfortable with yourself, but you still got to prove your knowledge, your expertise, and your skill set to other people, in a form of kind of like being like a perfectionist. People hold you to a super high standard, and to be honest with you, on the other end, they may not even really realize what they're doing or what type of pressure they're putting on you. It's literally just how you perceive things and how they give, their delivery. It's all about their delivery.
Or so one facet of this is, I think, just like doubting yourself and doubting your abilities. Like you said, there's a lack of confidence that plays into this.
Yeah.
So one thing that I found uh, that was unique is that you doubt yourself internally. Like it stems from how much confidence you kind of have in yourself. It's more, I guess I'm saying it's more intrinsic than it is extrinsic as far as what side plays the greater factor.
100%. I would say it's in the 90 percentile as it being an internal thing. The external factors just kind of like enhance that internal thought process, because certain situations may have happened where you've had an idea of where, like, oh, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was because of this may happen, or maybe I've done a presentation, or maybe I've worked out some type of business contract and it didn't go so well because I couldn't relate to this person on certain things. Those type of things play a huge factor into like your psyche and how you perceive things.
Yeah, so statistics are pretty high on this. Everything I saw kind of showed that it was maybe in the 70 percentile as far as how often or how frequent people deal with this issue. So it seems that there's just a majority of folks that are dealing with this. And I think a piece comes from kind of just understanding how other people may perceive themselves in their work. So if, for example, you're in a work situation and you and your coworkers have the same task, but you don't necessarily understand that maybe what something that's difficult to you, that one of your coworkers might make it seem like it's easy, but it's actually very difficult for them to do, and they're kind of just putting up a facade and making it seem like something that's difficult is effortless, just to make you feel less than, or make you feel like you're not as skilled as they are at something.
Right.
Or also, you just don't, I mean, really, when you're working alongside people, sometimes you just don't know how many things someone else has to do to achieve something at work. I know, for example, in my own experience, I would do something at work and it would be a new task that I didn't do before. And as I was doing it in my mind, I said, this is kind of difficult for me to do. And then I'm looking at other people around to see if they're working on the same type of project. And I'm thinking, is this as hard for them as it is for me? Like, I'm trying to measure myself against my peers. And sometimes I would find that what was easy for me was hard for somebody else, and what was hard for me was easier for someone else to do. So it's I think it kind of just plays into what you're doing and your strengths and your weaknesses. Like, some things are just going to come easy to you and some things are going to be difficult, but that you can take that into account for everybody.
Yeah, I agree, man. With imposter syndrome, there's a whole bunch of different levels. Based on the article that I found, there's actually five different types of imposter syndrome. So that goes to show you how widespread this actual term is. The first one would be the perfectionist. And I don't think I need to go into a full extent of what a perfectionist is, but there is a sense of, if something goes wrong after you didn't put in X amount of work and effort, um, everything has to go precisely how you perceive it to be. So everything has to go your way. And in the real world terms, it never goes that way. Everything goes the opposite of how you envision it. You kind of have to accept it for what it is and go with the flow. And that's how a lot of people get caught up in that part. The second one would be more so, quote unquote, the superwoman slash superman. So these are people that really run themselves into the ground. These are the people where you're only required to work 40 hours a week, right? These people usually go above and beyond. These are the people that arrive before you get to work, and they even stay after you leave work. So these people are the ones that leave no time for self to actually get away from work, to actually think freely, to where they would be refreshed to get back on the job. They're thinking work, 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 like things are going to change, or it's a huge deciding factor. And people don't realize that that can cripple your mindset just because things aren't necessarily that's just, you need a break from things from time to time so you can have a fresh brain there.
Yeah. I call that the Marcus syndrome.
Yeah, that's you, 100%.
I'm good for that. And I think what you're saying, I know workaholic is another category. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that would be considered the workaholic.
So I can remember a time back when I was working as a director working with adults with intellectual disabilities. But I would work so much. Like I was going to work on weekends. So I was working 7 days a week and we were only open for 5. So I'm going into work on the weekends. I'm getting there early. I'm taking phone calls as early as like 4 in the morning to sometimes like 9, 10 o'clock at night, depending on what's going on. So I'm working around the clock, but there's a part of me that feels obligated to go in on the weekends and to also be there from 6 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night, and feeling the need to make sure that I'm always there and always available. What that did was, it lead me to burn out in what I was doing. But it's it's almost like I felt like me physically being there, even though I was working way beyond what anybody else was working, or even maybe there was someone else who's close, maybe close to working what I was doing. I don't think there was, but I always felt like I had to prove to people that I was willing to put all these hours and put all this time in, just to show that I was deserving of the position that I held in running that program. And what it did was, because I would do that so much, I did burn out in that position. And towards the end of my tenure there, I started to get the mindset that, I'm doing all this work. I know I'm working 60 hours, 50, 60 hours on a regular basis. I'm doing all this work that people don't even know that I'm doing. And it doesn't really matter, so it got to the point to where I was like, well, I feel like I didn't have anything to prove, and that, if I'm sticking around just so people can see me, or just so I can feel better with obtaining a position that I earned, you know, then that was something, there's really something wrong with me, and I probably needed to get out of that environment, which I did.
For sure, man. Working like that is very dangerous. I understand the level of importance of getting ahead and actually being, you want to move up. You got that fire within, as we keep saying, where you want to move up and you want to realize, like, hey, I'm not here to play games. I'm someone that really wants to do big things. I want a leadership role. I want to be a manager. I want to be a supervisor. And, there's other ways you can go around by doing that. And the number one thing is staying consistent. You don't necessarily have to run your butt into the ground just to get to where you want to be. There's other ways or other factors that can get you there. It's a process. The third type of imposter syndrome would be the natural genius. Uh, this is, I mean, this is self-explanatory as well, man. These are the type of imposters that set their internal bar impossibly high, and just like perfectionists, a natural genius, those types, they usually don't just judge themselves based on ridiculous expectations. They also judge themselves based on getting things right on the first try. So they think that, hey, if I don't get it right this first time, all hell breaks loose. Like they just pretty much they don't know how to handle it, man. And that goes back into like emotional intelligence, like we've covered. It's all about learning how to handle that. We understand how important the job or whatever situation you're in means to you, but if you don't get it right the first time, okay, I understand. It's heartbreaking, it's heart wrenching, but you can't just fold up and break down and attack your own self ego, so to speak, just because you didn't get A on your report card, or you didn't get a gold star, you didn't get a raise this month or this year. There's something to learn from that. And I guarantee you, there's five or six more or seven more positive things you could have got out of that experience versus that one negative thing. And what you probably view as being negative from a natural genius standpoint uh, is probably not even that serious in most cases.
Yeah, what's the next one? I think I got something for the next for the next one.
Okay, the next one is the soloist. So a soloist, they suffer, who feel as though is asking for help reveals their phoniness, or what young people call soloists. So they're afraid to ask for help. I find myself being guilty of this. And I know a lot of people that feel guilty of this. And this is when you let your pride get in the way, man.
Yeah,
You talk about how you don't want anyone's help when you actually need all the help in the world. Like, I don't know if you want to cover on that.
yeah. No, I'm guilty. Is that is that of that as well? And I think it's just your pride getting in the way. And I think what interesting, not more so of a quote, but kind of a story from Henry Ford. I think back, when he was doing his thing, getting the Ford Motor Company running. One of the perceptions of him was that he wasn't as intelligent as other business owners. But I think one of the quotes is when they asked him, like, why doesn't he have the knowledge, or does he know things? And his answer was that, why does he need to know X, Y, and Z when he can pick up the phone and call somebody and have the answer within 5 minutes?
Exactly.
So it's probably quicker at that when you and a boss like Henry Ford was, probably 1 minute, but that's just the mentality that he had. And you understand that, I think you just have to understand that you can't do it all by yourself. And that's okay. I think even someone who tells you they're like self-made or they did it all by themselves, there's people that have helped you, just not in the capacity that you're probably thinking, you know. So I think it's important. I think it's just important to understand when maybe you're out of your depth a little bit, or you're running the risk of overextending yourself, which, like you said, some of that just ties back into EQ and being aware of yourself and your capacity, your limitations, and your strengths.
All right. Well, let's move on to the last one. This is something that I I experience on the daily. It's the expert. And pretty much the expert is one of those people that you just can't tell them nothing. Um, so,
Those people are fun to work with.
so basically, the expert measures their level of competence based on what and how much they know or can do. So, believing they will never know enough, they fear being exposed as inexperienced or unknowledgeable. So, like a good question you could ask is, do you shy away from applying to job postings unless you meet every single educational requirement? Are you constantly seeking out trainings or certifications because you think you need that to improve your skill in order to succeed? Like, that's what I mean as far as being the expert. Like, you have to basically cross off everything on the checklist so you can meet the demand of whatever offers on the table. And that's almost always not the case in most situations. But nothing's wrong with being thorough at all under any circumstances. But having that mentality can really cripple you. You know, people need to realize that you need to leave some room for you being able to grow or transition into something. So if you know everything, then what's the point of, even, what I'm saying? Like, it gets to a point where why would I hire, or why would I, partner with somebody that's an expert and knows all this information inside out? Like, what's the point of me doing that when my whole role is to make sure that you grow into that position, not necessarily come in there already being an expert? Because what's going to happen is you're going to start challenging that boss, you're going to start challenging your leaders and everything like that, because you've already know this information. So it's like, would I rather have somebody that's fully expert and then pretty much have them blocked, or, there's a glass ceiling there? Or would I rather have somebody that knows half the knowledge and they have room to grow into that, where they would be motivated and there's an actual like common goal there between you and the workforce or whatever you're doing? I rather invest my time into someone that can grow into that, that position, versus someone that is actually like fully equipped and they're pretty much on their way out the door. They need something new. What you think, Marcus?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a lot. Like if you look at a job description, I feel like a good deal of employers are looking for like this perfect fit. There's not really even a gauge for potential and what someone can bring to the table. It's more so we need you to have 1 to 2 years of, kind of all this experience, but they don't take into account what you're capable of. Like what type of projects have you worked on, and what type of areas have you challenged yourself and excelled in that, you know. So I feel like I feel like sometimes the kind of the way the job market is set up
Mm-hmm.
maybe deters people from thinking they can apply for those projects and things of that nature, because it doesn't. I don't think the way the job market is set up right now, it doesn't reward potential. It rewards someone who's more at maybe that expert level, or perceives himself as being an expert.
Okay.
But I don't think that, um, I think that's kind of why it's important that, as far as imposter syndrome, that people don't let that feeling prevent them from sharing their ideas or applying for, jobs or projects where they might excel. Like I think sometimes you might look at a job posting or some sort of position, and you might feel like, hey, this is out of my scope. But then you should refer back to a time in your life where you were presented with a project that was out of your scope and you succeeded at that, you know. And I think it's part of, like, one of the kind of the tips to someone who deals with imposter syndrome is to just, like, learn from your mistakes, but also, remember the things that you've accomplished. Don't lose sight of the things you've did well. And I think that plays a part. I think that plays a part in it.
Yeah, man, it's very important to be secure as much as possible. I know it's not an easy task because I fight with it every day, but you know, like Marcus said, man, you got to write those accomplished down. You got to, make sure that you're thinking about those whenever you are challenged or you feel challenged or intimidated. It's important that you kind of fall back on those accomplishments so you can remind yourself who the hell you are.
Because anybody at any stage of their career can have imposter syndrome. Even the most accomplished folks feel that way.
All the time.
So
Especially people that have no idea or what direction they're going in. They're just going with the flow. Just because you're successful, that don't stop you from experiencing things where you're going with the flow. You know, that's just how things are for you at that point in time.
yeah,
And most great things happen unplanned, unscripted dreams.
yeah, that's that's it. Uh, so Joe, I got a question for you.
Sure.
All right, so I think I think based on my research and understanding that there's a there's a fine line between confidence and feeling like you're an imposter, like that there's a certain level of that part of having imposter's syndrome is that there's a level of humility that you have,
Yep.
but it's magnified. Like you've magnified your humility to a point to where it's unhealthy. Like it's a detriment to you. So what do you feel like the balance is, the right balance between kind of humility and your confidence?
There really is no right balance, Marcus. To be honest with you, you just have to take it as it comes. I know that sounds rough, but that's really what it comes down to. You have to take it how it comes. You may be more challenged about certain situations and you might just blow past another one, just like, that's nothing. Like it all depends on where you are in your life with that circumstance or situation. I would say the best way to handle those type of issues would be more or less trying to weigh out the pros and cons, try to assess the situation for what it is. Like I told you before, and I said on this platform, if you don't have the answers, man, the best way to tackle an answer is simply just put it on pause and come back to it. It's not going anywhere. So, you can pick up where you left off later, man. So that's the key point that I'm trying to make here is you don't have to give an answer to everything. You don't have to make a sound decision right away on anything. Give yourself time.
Yeah. So one thing, I know we're about to start wrapping this up, but one thing, just as far as Joe, are you gonna get into some tips? Like, are you gonna do you
Oh
have
yeah.
some? All right. Well, one of the ones I just wanted to mention was as far as just having confidence, and sometimes you have to take control of your own fate, take control of your own situation. And if you're working in a job, and I know performance evaluations are a huge thing. I mean, they determine whether or not you're going to get a raise. For those people that work at companies where they haven't frozen your raises, uh, but you can take control of that whole evaluation process, and you can set the tone by just asking your supervisor for a review. It doesn't have to be that 6 month or that annual review. You can ask for a review every month, and you can hold them accountable for letting the terms in which success will be viewed at your position, at your level. So you can ask for that, and I've done that. I've went and I've just asked for a review just because I wanted to know how I was doing, and I didn't want to wait for 6 months or a year for me to get feedback, and then you use that as leverage to not give me a raise. Like I want to know the the review criteria a year before I get it. So when it comes time to my review, you can't do anything but pay what you owe, so I think just taking control of what you can control, and understanding that you have more power than what you think over your situation. Like, you don't have to wait for certain things to come to you. You can demand an evaluation, and your superiors, they'll respect that, because they'll have to be a little bit more on the ball. And I think that goes to kind of building confidence, because you're holding yourself to another standard, because I guarantee there aren't many people going to their supervisors asking for a review just to get it, just so they can know where they're at. So I think that's a good tool to build confidence in the kind of combat, any of that imposters syndrome.
Well, I'm really glad you said that, Marcus, because that ties into number one ways to overcoming imposter syndrome. And the first one is keeping a journal. So if you do something like I like to practice now, it's called a project plan. Make sure you have like a list of deliverables. If you don't know what deliverables are, that's a list of the objectives that you've achieved at your job. So whether that's miscellaneous stuff that's outside of your job and all that type of stuff, document that in like an Excel sheet, Word, whatever, wherever you can, notebook, OneNote, document that stuff. I document my stuff every week, the good, bad, and the ugly. So I document all those objectives and I save them. So when we do have an evaluation meeting, I bring these up. So there won't be no room for non-discussion. I won't miss anything. And I would also bring things to their attention as far as what am I doing on the back end. There's always a lot of role of there's always a level of work that you've done that your boss has no clue about, because you got to think about it. Your boss is managing more people outside of you. So you have to do things like that. So everybody's on the same page and you're not getting cheated out of what you owe, so to speak. Get your money. All right. Number two, set some goals, man. Make sure you set some goals for yourself. That's the fun part about it. If you don't set any goals for yourself, then you're just there. So I really hope and pray that you have some type of goals as far as what you want to get out of this. I can tell you from my experience, what I want is experience. I want exposure. That's what I've always wanted. Those are my goals. My goals is exposure to the technological piece. I want to make a transition into some technical work versus me just doing the typical work I do day to day. Third thing, build a professional support network. Fourth would be get a 360 feedback. Like Marcus said, you can always ask for an evaluation at any point in time. They're required to do that because they're responsible for you. So, what would a boss look like denying feedback to their people that are under them? And, it's just poor leadership. If your boss can't give you an evaluation of the work and what you mean to the organization you represent, you don't need to be there, flat out. You need to find a better job. All right. The next one would be, get a coach. If you need one, get a coach, find a mentor. There's always people in the workplace that have kids that have moved away from home and they're, so to speak, an empty nest there. And they've always need kids that they want to speak to, or they want to build a relationship with because they see something in you like they saw in their kids or whatever. There's some type of relationship there that you can build on with anybody in the workforce. And actually, they can give you tidbits of how to take your career to the next level. All right. Next one would be recognize learning and failure are okay. That's part of the process. You don't just have a straight path to get to your destination. There's some curves, there's some hills, there's some cliffs, there's all that in your path to where you want to be. So be comfortable with learning, and with failure, make sure you fail fast. So if you fall off a cliff at some point, make sure that you can have a safety net there, whether that's money in the bank or you have some other opportunity lined up where you can bounce back. It may not be the quickest thing, but it's something. And that's the thing. You just can't stop fighting. Next one would be keep a positive feedback. Always document that stuff. It's very important that you have positive feedback, man. That's what keeps you going. Next one would be do things outside of work that make you feel good. So whether that's you hitting up the bars, whether that's you driving in crazy during rush hour, whether that's you, whether that's you doing whatever, man, going to the gym, doing your CrossFit, whatever you do, man, whatever makes your heart happy, make sure that you do that. Next one would be say it out loud to someone you trust. I feel like a fraud. So don't be afraid to voice these insecurities that you have about yourself to somebody. This is therapy for yourself, man. What good is it of you getting over something if you can't admit your faults or where you think you're faulting at? Imposter syndrome is literally nothing but a false sense of self. You could be doing great out here, but you still feel like shit on the inside. So make sure you voice these things to people so people can actually connect the dots for you, because clearly you can't in your own brain because you're thinking about too many things. So make sure that you do have an outlet for that.
Yeah, sometimes you just need that outside perspective to push you along, or show you something in the light that you don't see it.
Amen. I think that's enough.
That's a lot, man. You dropped it heavy at the end. You put this. That's a lot. I hope folks are taking notes. But that's all I had. I mean, Joe, thanks for dropping all those tips at the end. I kind of sprinkle mine in, like not in the way that you do it. I just try to, you know, I just try to tell you a story, and that's kind of my tip is don't do that. Maybe maybe so. But no, if I'm sure we'll jump into a lot on hindsight. I think there's a couple things we talked about that I wanted to do some more research on. That when I find my notes, I'll be able to present those probably in that episode that we do. But I'm done, Joe. Do you have you have anything else?
Yeah, I want some people to take away from this as far as imposter syndrome. All the successful people that you think have their shit together really don't. And it just appears that way. So keep that in mind. Be mindful that everybody doesn't have it together like you think they do. You just admire something about them, so you focus in on that and you kind of block out all the other inconsistencies that are just there right in front of your face. So keep in mind that you think everybody got it together, $1 million and all. They driving down the street with a Bentley or a Mustang on 20s, whatever. Like you think they got it all together, and boy, they might be worse off than you are. So just keep that in mindful that you can't apply your lifestyle and how you live in your life to other people, because it just never works out that way.
Preach.
Well, hey man, I appreciate you guys from listening. This is the Imposter Syndrome episode. So, like I said, thank you. It means a lot.
Thanks.
Peace.